Hello, everybody. It's Phil Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. If you'd like to subscribe, then click the subscribe button in the lower right and also the notification bell in the upper right. And that way you should be notified when new episodes come out. Today's date is September the 8th, 2021. It is a Wednesday. It's the same day that the Robert E. Lee statue on Monument Avenue in Richmond, Virginia was taken down. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. But the actual title of my talk today is going to be Anti-Racism and Confederate Statues. Richmond's Robert E. Lee statue on Monument Avenue was removed today because modern academics and their acolytes in the media convinced politicians that it was an intolerably racist symbol. They gave no consideration to Lee's leadership qualities, which put those of President Joe Biden to shame, to say the least. It is therefore necessary to realize that most all Confederate statues will suffer the same fate if the twin poisons of critical race theory and anti-racism continue to spread. Now, critical race theory is a derivative of critical legal studies, which postulates that American law supports the interest of white males because our founding fathers were white. It assumes that the law favors the historically privileged and disadvantages the historically underprivileged. Equality under the law, therefore, is assumed to merely camouflage white supremacy, since white males keep the law structured to their advantage through their self-interest. Critical theory, a predecessor of critical race theory, supposes that all nations are composed of two classes, oppressors and victims. Until the 1960s, the difference between the two classes was described in economic terms, such as workers and capitalists. After the rise of the academic grievance studies, such as feminism and Black studies, however, critical theory started including other classes demarcated by characteristics that are immutable, like skin color and sex. For the new presumed victims, the shift is a self-serving theory mutation because it releases women and Blacks from personal responsibility. According to leading anti-racist spokesman Ibram X. Kendi, for example, racial policies either increase racism or reduce it. Those that increase it are racist. Those that reduce it are anti-racist. In How to Be an Anti-Racist, Kendi writes, quote, "The only remedy for racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination or reverse discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present reverse discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future reverse discrimination," close quote. On the premise that all races are biologically equal, he concludes that any difference in outcome of testing the two groups, or of any two groups by race, any difference in outcome, according to Kendi, is due to racism, not the collective behavior of the two classes, or the effort of the collective effort of the two classes, or the collective study habits of the two classes. Those have nothing to do with it in his analysis and in his anti-racist theory. Since Blacks score about 200 points lower than whites on SAT exams, Kendi therefore reasons that the exams are racist. Historical reliance on them, he assumes, results, or he postulates, results from the so-called white patriarchy's pursuit of its own interests. Notwithstanding a culture of indifference to academics, particularly among Black males, Black male youths, Kendi ridicules suggestions that the behavioral differences between Blacks and whites are a possible cause of the academic performance gap, just as they might be between whites and Asians, who tend to rank higher on that scale compared to whites, European whites. As silly as that sounds, as silly as his argument sounds, Kendi's arguments are gaining traction. Consequently, the University of California system announced 4 months ago in May of 2021 that SAT and ACT test results would no longer be factored into the admissions process. Despite Kendi's criticism that the so-called white patriarchy perpetrates its own beliefs and power through self-interest, he evidently fails to realize that he is the better example of such conduct. His insistence that equality of outcome trumps equality of opportunity absolves members of the below average group from behavioral modification. It implies quotas requiring that less qualified people be vouchsafed positions that would be more productively utilized by better qualified people. There's nothing new about his outcome equality over opportunity equality preference. A class stratified version of it is communism, which is an unattainable utopia in practice that produces tyranny and misery. Kendi pursues his dubious ideas with more of the quote self-interest, close quote, vigor that he describes to the so-called white power structure. This 39-year-old man is evidently making a small fortune from his book and royalties, his book royalties and his speaking engagements. Kendi's focus on outcome equality would ultimately mean the death of our traditional meritocracy. Perhaps that is one reason his supporters wanted to destroy Lee's Monument Avenue statue. Robert E. Lee achieved his prominence on merit, and that is anathema, I guess, to somebody like Ibram Kendi. Well, I want to share something with you on my screen, so give me a second to pull it up. This is a book that I wrote called Trading with the Enemy, and what it covers is the trading between the North and the South during the Civil War, not necessarily the trading between the individual soldiers. I'm not really looking at that. I'm looking basically at the North buying cotton in the South and paying for it, thereby giving the Southerners money to buy weapons and other necessities. But the book is priced at $26 at Barnes & Noble and Amazon and other fine bookstores. I will sell an autographed copy of it. It's hardcover. I'll sell an autographed copy of it for $29, and I'll cover the postage if you live here in the United States. Now, one of the things you'll find, and when you read this, twice as much cotton was purchased across the enemy lines by Northerners during the Civil War than was exported through the maritime blockade during the Civil War by people like the fictional Rhett Butler. Twice as much was purchased by the Yankees. And in some cases, they purchased the cotton for gold. The gold eventually got into the international markets where it bought weapons for the Confederacy. There is an episode in here that covers the experience of Rhode Island Senator William Sprague, who may well have committed treason by buying cotton for weapons in an episode known as the Texas Adventure. So if you would like to learn more about that, then buy the book. And if you'd like an autographed copy, all you got to do is email me, Phil, P-H-I-L _Lee, L-E-I-G-H @me.com. Okay, that's our show for today, and thanks for watching.